it's cool that we're all here because we were all here last time together too, so we can kind of like pick up where we left off. We talked last time about dissociation and sort of the reason for having this practice on Wednesday nights. Kim and I's motivation for it partly is just to be able to reassociate, like come back into our bodies after, a year and a half of escapism, and for many of us, lifetime of escapism in some ways. So I've been kind of thinking about dissociation. Most of the time when I think about it from a very personal, individual perspective, like the ways I'm dissociating from my life or the ways people around me, I notice them dissociating. And I'm starting to kind of think about the ways that we do this collectively, like the way, like as a culture, we dissociate, and how that is bolstered and perpetuated by capitalism and white supremacy, and that those things really depend on us not feeling. They depend on us being completely out of our bodies. And in that sense, it feels really radical to practice coming into your body. And I learned of this, someone introduced me to a writer named Sophie Strand. She lives on the East Coast somewhere, I think maybe New York. And she writes a lot about embodiment as it pertains to ecology, and sort of that the earth is an extension of our bodies and how those two things are interrelated. And I thought I might read just like a little snippet of one of her writings. They're pretty long. I'll just read a section of it because it seemed to tie in really nicely with my sort of train of thought as I was thinking about individual dissociation and collective dissociation and how we mend that. The piece is called Agony in the Garden. Can you hear me okay? So this is just a section of it, but she writes, "We have been numb for so long that we no longer understand the body we are harming is an extension of our own body. When we clear-cut a forest or drive another population of birds extinct, we do not somatically register that we are twisting a knife in our own side. Eco-awakening is an emergency, and if it is done right, it is going to be extremely uncomfortable. It is going to be agony. What does it mean to suddenly be able to feel the whole story, the full impact of the accident, every raw spot where the plant, a fungi, a beaver once lived? What song does it make when it plays through your own nervous system? When I finally decided to come back to my body, it was not pleasurable. It was excruciating. It turned out a whole spectrum of emotions were available to me, stored not in my brain, but in my armpit, my toe, my hips, my sternum. But this spectrum was not easily classifiable. It was not a product. It was not a good thing or a bad thing. It was pins and needles. It was a howl, a scream, a holy shit. We need to help each other come back into our bodies. Bodies that have inflicted genocide and ecocide and self-harm. Bodies that have denied their shot arrows have a way of curving back into their own breasts. The bodies that flow beyond the sterile fiction of a self into the ecosystem where concrete blankets the kingdom and Roundup fries the garden. Let us begin to honor that while embodiment is our birthright, so is discomfort. This is not going to be all pleasure. In fact, the birth canal into ecological embodiment is going to be tight and hot and intense. Waking up to the animate everything of this excruciating, wild, bumptious, dying, breathtaking now is going to hurt. But the pain is what tells us to move. I think the real horror of being unable to feel anything at all, good or bad. Looking down at the sleeping foot, one is always worried that you'll never get your sensation back. So when you start to really feel it, the sapphire-sharp sorrow of the butterflies, the rivers, the cavernous boom of whale song ballooning your own moan, you will also give a sigh of relief. To feel is to know you are real, really here, and really bigger than you ever thought you were. To really be awake in the garden, while the disciples of the dominant culture still sleep, is going to be agony. The world was never a machine, never numb. Yes, this will be uncomfortable, but it will also be the blessing of understanding that every sting is a sign you can feel your body again. Your body that is intimately sewn through every other being you breathe, sweat, drink, see, metabolize, become, and die alongside. I read that just after I had been reading Adrienne Marie Brown's Emergent Strategy. I've been kind of like leafing through that book again, and there was a little section of it where she was writing about basically like we need to take turns allowing each other space and time to feel in order to maintain our movements toward liberation and justice and ecological healing. And so I just wanted to like lay that out for class tonight, that it is such an individual thing that we're doing when we show up in spaces like this. It's a personal project to come into this work as an individual, and it's also so interconnected to everything else that we do. So thank you for being here and doing this with me and doing it in community and taking it week by week. And I hope we can kind of let this sentiment lead us through the practice tonight. Our movements will be fairly similar to some things we did last week. I'll try to weave in some of the same resiliency techniques. We'll do a little bit of sounding, a little bit of shaking, a little bit of twisting, in addition to more traditional yoga practice, yoga movements. I'm thinking of doing some sort of, the end of class will be a little bit of like rolling around on the floor, so there'll be sort of like some somatic movement there too. But I hope that that can just kind of flavor our practice tonight as we move through. Does that sound okay? All right, cool. I think I want to have us start in child's pose tonight. You can put your blocks up towards the top of your mat. We'll come to those a little bit later. And you might want to place a blanket down under your knees, just so it's available to you in a little bit when we get to some lunges. As you're finding your way into child's pose, you can take whatever version of it feels comfortable in your body. You might take knees together or knees wide and let your belly hang between your thighs. If you're coming into the pose and it doesn't really feel very good and you'd rather kind of stretch out on your belly, you can come to crocodile pose instead. That would be lying on your belly and just letting your head rest on your forearms. So just some sort of downward facing position to begin practice. And I will invite you to start bringing your attention into your body in whatever way that feels available to you in this moment. Might be helpful to think about specific things that you can feel right now. So you might just kind of notice the texture of your yoga mat, the feeling of your blanket underneath your knees. If your forehead is resting on the blanket or the mat, what that sensation feels like. And as you're starting to tap into physical sensation, you might be interested in beginning to deepen your breath. If that feels natural and comfortable to you, you can start to take deeper inhales and let them expand into the sides of your rib cage. You might notice the way your breath moves into your back body, filling that space around the back of your heart, between your shoulder blades, maybe even down towards your kidneys. Or you might even experience sensation along your low back. And just start to notice if there is a rhythm or cadence to your breath. There's no right or wrong to that. Just notice what is. And then see if you can bring your attention to your face and start to consciously relax your forehead, your eyebrows, your eyes, cheeks. You can let the mouth, lips, and tongue be soft. And we'll start to bring just a little bit of movement in here. You can start to stretch your arms out long in front of you. And then I'll invite you to rise up onto your fingertips. So you've got like little spider hands, wrists are high. Yeah, and then notice how as you do that, the armpits kind of hollow out. And you can make that motion so much so that your elbows even come away from the ground. So really stretching the arms forward, yeah. And then just take an inhale breath there. And exhale, let your palms come back down to the ground. Okay, and then on your next inhale, you can grip the mat with your hands and draw yourself up to a tabletop position on all fours. And we'll just start to move through some easy cat-cow shapes here. You can let your inhale lift your head, lift your tailbone, feel your collarbones widen. And then as you exhale, let your whole spine round. Your head can hang heavy, tail heavy. And just take that back and forth at your own pace. You might be linking one breath, one movement, or you might move even slower than that and like really take your time finding each full shape, fully rounded or fully extended. If it feels comfortable, you can close your eyes and try to bring your whole attention into your internal experience of this movement. See if you can really feel each vertebra unraveling and then condensing back in. An optional variation here, you can bring your legs more like they're coming into a child's pose shape, so the feet will be kind of closer together, knees a little bit wide, and then tuck the toes under. And you'll just kind of reach the hips back towards your heels, so you're sort of in like half child's pose, half tabletop. And then take some cat-cows there. So you're sort of opening up through the bottoms of your feet as you're flexing and extending your spine. And you can take a couple more rounds of that. And then in your own time, we'll start to make our way to downward facing dog. There's no rush to get there, so feel free to move slow. And then feel free to bring some curiosity into this first down dog. It doesn't have to look like anything special. You can just be really feeling into your body, maybe pedaling out your feet, maybe taking a deep bend in the knees and stretching your sit bones, tailbone up towards the sky. Perhaps shaking the head, yes and no, releasing some tension through the neck and shoulders. Good. And as you start to settle into stillness, come back into your breath. Okay, and then on an inhale, lift your heels and let that lift slide you forward towards plank pose. And just pause there for a second. Feel the back of your heart reaching up through your shoulder blades. Yeah, good. Take an inhale there. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Full in-breath through your nose. Exhale, open mouth. Good. Inhale, lift your heels, slide forward, plank pose. Pause there for the exhale. Take a nice big inhale. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Good. Big breath in. Full breath out. Good. We're going to take it a step further this time. Inhale as you shift forward into plank pose. And then exhale as you lower down to your belly. Okay, we're going to want a little bit of space to either side of your hands here, so you may need to shift your blocks up a bit. We're going to take our hands out a little bit wider than the mat at about shoulder height, and then find those like spider arms again, or spider fingers, yeah. So you can let the shoulders will be kind of lifted here, and the forehead will be dipped down towards the ground, and we're going to take some slow cobras. So as we inhale, we'll lift the face, then the throat, and then your heart, and then we're going to exhale back down, heart, throat, and face. And take a few cobras just like that, inhaling as you lift, and exhaling as you lower. Do this at your own pace. See if you can root down through the tops of your feet a little bit and reach the tailbone back towards the back of the room. So keeping a nice long, low spine. Good. Let's do one more at your own rhythm. And as you exhale back down, you can bring your hands just underneath your shoulders. And we'll press back the tabletop. And then tuck the toes under, downward facing dog. And take a nice deep bend in your knees and start to walk your feet forward to a standing forward fold. Just let this be kind of a loose ragdoll forward fold, so you can have a pretty generous bend through the knees, arms, head, shoulders heavy. We're going to take a few halfway lifts here. I'm going to use my blocks. You don't have to if you don't want to, but if you'd like to, you can take them to their highest setting, just underneath your hands. And then as you inhale, we'll lengthen the spine, reach your face and your sternum forward, and then exhale and lower. And let's do that 2 more times. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale to fold. And last time, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and fold. Good. Keep that bend in the knees. You can relax your arms, and we're just going to slowly uncurl up to standing. Might feel good to kind of wiggle the shoulders side to side as you come upright. All right, so let's do a little bit of orienting here. Just taking a look around. You can look up above you and notice how tall the ceiling is. And then look down. And then just start to kind of look around the room. You can notice where the edges of the room are, where the windows are, what's behind you, in front of you. You're really coming into the space. Okay. From here, we'll take a little bend in the knees and bring our fingertips to the tops of our shoulders. And with that same intention of orienting, so keep your eyes kind of softly open. We're just going to start twisting. You can twist to one side, to the other. This can be fast, it can be slow, whatever feels good for your spine. And just taking in the surroundings. And then you can let your twists get smaller and smaller until you come back to a neutral spine. Okay, and then we'll keep that little bend in the knees, and let's reach the hands forward with the palms not facing each other, so backs of the hands towards each other, yeah. And then start to round your spine and drop your chin down towards your chest. And then as you inhale, open your arms nice and wide, reach your heart forward, look up towards the ceiling, and then exhale back to that first position. So just a different orientation of downward facing, or of cat-cow here. Inhaling as you open, and exhaling as you round. Notice what it's like to really stretch through your fingers as you make these movements. And exhale. Okay, let's do one more. Big inhale. Full exhale. Okay, and then let your spine come back to neutral, arms at your sides. Root down through your feet and inhale to sweep your arms out and up. And let's grab the right wrist with the left hand and then exhale over towards the left. And then push down through your right foot. And then inhale, come back to center. Switch the grip of your hands. Exhale to the other side. Push down through your left foot. Good. Inhale back to center. And exhale, swan dive forward, forward fold. Use your blocks if you like as you inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and fold. Good. Okay, let's take the blocks down to their medium setting and bring them to either side of your feet. Yep, and we'll step the right foot back, coming into a low lunge, so you can bring the back knee down to the ground. Good. Settle in a little bit here. You can spread the toes of the front foot, push down through the ball of the foot and the heel, and then feel that kind of sturdiness and activity reach up through the lower leg. Then we'll draw the left hip back a little bit, right hip forward. Draw your low belly in, and then let your next inhale lift your arms. And exhale, relax your shoulders. Let's take a big inhale here, get really tall. Then exhale, cactus arms. Feel your shoulder blades draw towards each other and down. And then inhale the arms back up. And exhale, hands back to your blocks. Okay, we're going to come to a half split here, so you can walk your blocks back a little bit as you start to shift your hips back in space. You'll lengthen this front leg as you peel the toes of the front foot away from the ground. Yeah. I like to keep a bend in the front knee here just to kind of protect, especially if you happen to hyperextend. Let's just take 2 breaths here. You might notice what it feels like to drop your chin. That can really heighten the sensation, so if it's too much, just be gentle. And let's walk the blocks back forward. You can place your hands on the ground on either side of that front foot, and then tuck your back toes under, lift the back knee, and we'll step the front foot back to our plank pose. Your choice, you can flow through a vinyasa here if you want to, or you can press back to down dog or child's pose. And take a nice big breath in through your nose. Exhale all the way. Take a deep bend in the knees, look forward and make your way to the top of your mat, standing forward fold. And then we'll inhale for a halfway lift. And exhale, fold. Right, okay, let's do the other side. Go ahead and step your left foot back, coming to a low lunge. You can find your blocks again if you'd like. And just taking a moment to settle in and find the strength of that front leg. Spread the front toes, push down through the ball of the foot and the heel, and then feel that activity come up your leg. Draw the right hip back a little bit, left hip forward. And then from there, we'll inhale, lift the arms. And then exhale, relax your shoulders. Relax your jaw. And let's take an inhale. Then exhale for cactus arms. Squeeze your shoulder blades towards each other and down. Inhale, lift your arms. And then exhale, hands back to your blocks. We'll come to that half split, so you can walk your blocks back in space, lengthen your front leg, toes of the front foot can come up towards the ceiling. Couple of breaths here. And we'll start to walk the blocks back forward. Go ahead and set them to the side and place your hands on either side of your front foot. Back toes tucked under, we'll lift the back knee and step back to plank pose. Again, your choice, you can flow through a vinyasa, come to down dog or child's pose. Whatever feels like a good reset for you. We'll take a couple breaths in whatever position you find yourself in. Good. Okay, so we'll start to make our way back to the top of our mat. If you're in child's pose, you can join us in down dog, and then we'll walk or hop the feet forward. And let's inhale for a halfway lift, and then exhale and fold. Okay, so we're going to warm up a little bit so that we can really get some juicy hip stretches a little bit later. So let's have our next inhale bring us to chair pose. You can bring your hips back, bend the knees. Arms can either come overhead or be out in front of you. So option to stay here. If this is feeling like really warming, you might choose to stay right here. If you want to bring a little movement in, you can let your inhale bring you up onto your toes. Heels will come away from the ground. Arms will fly back behind you. And then exhale back to your original position of chair. Good. Inhale as you shift forward. Exhale, chair. We'll do just one more. Inhaling forward. Exhale, chair. Good. Then push into both feet and rise all the way up to standing. And exhale your arms by your sides. Okay, let's inhale, sweep arms out and up. Exhale and fold. Inhaling for a halfway lift. Exhale and fold. Cool. Okay, let's get our blocks again. Let's bring them to the highest setting this time on either side of your feet. And then go ahead and step your right foot back. We're coming to a high lunge. Probably don't need the blanket for a little bit if you can reach it and want to toss it out of the way. Good. So let's take just a little bit of time setting this up. Similarly to the low lunge, you're going to spread the toes of the front foot, feel the strength of that front leg, and then draw the left hip back a little bit, right hip forward. Okay, low belly pulls in and up, and then from there we inhale, lift the arms. Whew. Okay. So similar movement here. Let's inhale as we reach forward, almost like you're grabbing like a big beach ball in front of you. And then exhale as you open up. Okay, we'll do two more of those. Inhaling forward. Exhale and open. Good. As you inhale to come forward, really reach through the back leg too. Good. Exhale and open. Nice. I'm wobbly too. Okay, let's bring the arms back overhead, and then let the exhale bring us to warrior two. So we're going to spin that back heel down. Arms come out wide. If you need to straighten the front leg for a second, take a breather. This will be worth it when we start to stretch the hips, I promise. Okay, finding our warrior two, you can bend into the front knee, let it track right over your front ankle. Take a second and glance down at your front foot and just make sure you can see your big toe. Great, okay. So on our inhale breath, let's take this to reverse warrior. So you can let your back hand drop down, front arm reaches up towards the sky, big opening through your side body. And then from here, push into your front foot and lengthen that front leg so it's nice and long. And as we exhale, we're going to come to triangle pose. So you're going to deepen the crease in your front hip, let your hip shift back. The front arm can come down to your shin or to a block, and then the other arm will reach up overhead. Beautiful. Good. And then bring your attention to the hand that's up floating towards the sky and start to reach that hand up towards the ceiling. Let that bring you back to warrior two. Good. Let's push into the front foot again, lengthen that leg. We'll bring both feet to parallel each other. If it feels good for your shoulders, you can take your hands to clasp at the base of your spine, just a little bend in your knees. And as you inhale, you'll reach your fist down, lift your sternum up. And then exhale as you hinge at your hips and fold. You might let the arms hang overhead. You might find blocks underneath your hands here if you want to release your arms. Okay, if your arms are still clasped, go ahead and bring them to the low back, and then you can release your grip and take the hands down to the floor or blocks. And we'll start to walk the hands around towards the front of your mat and make your way back to downward facing dog. You can flow through a vinyasa if that would feel good for you. You can rest in child's pose or crocodile pose. Good, and then we'll take a nice deep bend in the knees and start to make your way forward to a standing forward fold. So let's inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and fold. Good, inhale for chair pose. Exhale, relax your shoulders. Inhale as we come to drinking bird, lift your heels, let your arms fly back. And exhale, sit back down. Good, two more like that. Inhale forward. Exhale down. Last one, inhaling forward. Exhaling down. Last in breath here. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and fold. And we'll take our lunge on the other side. So you can prepare your blocks on their high setting. As you're ready, you'll step your left foot back. And just take a moment to build your foundation here. Making sure your knees right over your ankle, toes are gripping the mat, you've got strong front foot. Good, and then the right hip draws back a little bit, left hip forward. And from the strength of your legs, you'll inhale as you lift the arms. Okay, so we'll find a little bit of flow here. This is the burner. So we'll inhale, reach forward for that imaginary beach ball. And then exhale as you open it up. Inhale as you reach forward. Exhale as you open. One more time, inhaling forward. Exhale, open. Okay, let's inhale, reach your arms back towards the sky. Relax the shoulders. And we're coming to warrior two next, so that back foot will spin down. Arms open nice and wide. Again, if you need to give the front leg a little break, you can lengthen it for a moment. Okay, let's let our next in-breath bring us to a reverse warrior. So your back arm can drop, front arm lifts up, big opening through your side body. And then from there, push into the front foot, lengthen the front leg. And we'll start to hinge forward, so deepening that crease in the front hip as you let the front hand come down to a block or your shin, other arm towards the sky. There's this nice kind of a rotation through your rib basket as you spin your heart towards the ceiling. Yeah. Good. And bring your attention to your floating hand and start to reach it towards the ceiling. Let that bring you back, warrior two. Okay, let's lengthen the front foot. We're going to come to kind of a squat here. So we'll orient the feet so that the toes point out and the heels point in. And then bend into your knees so they kind of track over your ankles. Yeah, goddess squats. Okay, we're going to be here for a few breaths, and if you need to come out of it, just lengthen your legs and then come back in when you're ready. And we'll just take a hand to the heart, hand to the belly. If balance feels accessible to you tonight, you might play around with closing your eyes. And just notice the rhythm of your heartbeat. Notice the warmth of your body as you start to build heat inside of you. Notice if you're gripping in your jaw or your tongue. And see where you can relax, even though your legs are working really hard to support you in this position. See if you can relax through your shoulders, through your face. Okay, and we'll bring a little bit of movement in here. So as we inhale, we're going to lengthen the legs and sweep your arms out and up. Form a diamond shape with your hands, and then exhale and push it back down towards the ground. Okay, we'll do that 2 more times, inhaling up. Exhale as you push in and down. A really nice grounding exercise. Inhaling up. Exhale down. Good, okay, let's push into the feet, lengthen the legs, bring the feet back parallel to each other. We'll take 1 more forward fold here. If it felt good to clasp your hands, you can do that again, or you can just take hands to your hips, a little bend in your knees. Then as we inhale, we'll reach the sternum up. And then exhale as you hinge forward. Feel free to bring your fingers to the ground or to blocks. And this can be a little more free form than before. So if you want to kind of shift your weight side to side, that might feel good. If your hands are fully rooted into blocks or the earth, you can kind of rock your weight forward towards your toes, let the heels come away from the ground, and then rock your weight back towards your heels and lift your toes. Just kind of feeling through the dexterity of the bottoms of your feet. And then as you feel ready for it, we'll start to make our way back around towards the front of the mat. And back to down dog, the transition of your choice. We'll meet up in child's pose. You can take your time getting there. That was the most vigorous part of the practice tonight, so bravo, we did it. Okay, so when you feel ready, you can start to make your way to down dog. We're just going to use this as a transitional shape to get us to pigeon pose. So from downward facing dog, let's start with the right leg. You can lift it up towards the ceiling. And then we're gonna draw the right knee in towards our nose and then over towards the right wrist. So we're gonna let that leg, yeah, perfect. You all know what we're doing, good. So I have been finding I need a lot of props for this pose lately. So I like to kind of wedge a blanket underneath my hip, or sometimes even a block. If you have a foam block, that might be more comfortable than a cork one. Yeah. And then before you totally melt down into the pose, take a second and see if you can extend your heart forward and up a little bit. And then from that length, you can start to slowly melt forward, walking your hands forward. If a block is available to you, you can place it here underneath your forehead. I'm going to give us a little bit of time in this pose. If you start to get uncomfortable and need to make choices to transition into something else, feel free to do that. I'm going to encourage us to start finding really wide breath and breath that moves down towards the low back and the hips. So obviously the air itself does not travel that far, but as we take air into our lungs, they expand, and then the diaphragm drops to make room for that, and that pushes on organs and tissue throughout the rest of the body. So it's this kind of ripple effect of a deep breath that pushes sensation into other parts of our body. So I'll invite you here just to get curious about where sensation might be for you as you find deeper breath in a shape like this. You might also notice as you breathe deep breaths into your belly, if your belly expands forward and pushes into your heel or the leg beneath you, that can feel kind of comforting to just have that contact with your own body. Take like 3 to 5 more breaths on this side. And you can kind of start to make your way back onto the hands, lifting your torso. I like to tuck the back toes under and lift the back knee, and then kind of push into that back foot in my hands to come back into downward facing dog. It's usually a couple step process to get there, not super smooth. As you come to down dog, make whatever movements you need to bring some blood back into your right leg. Kind of shake the right foot, or you might lift the right leg into the air and take a scorpion dog. All right, let's do the other side. As you're ready, you can lift your left leg into the air. And then exhale as you bring that knee forward and towards your left wrist. And give yourself some time to set up. One side might be very different than the other, so just notice that. Let's take a second and check in with your back leg too, and just make sure that your back foot is coming like directly out of the back ankle, not sickling to one side. Good. And then we'll sit up nice and tall, reach your sternum forward, and then let your exhale lower you down. So settle in for pigeon on the second side. Just as before, I'll invite you to be curious about deep breath here. Part of becoming embodied, inhabiting our bodies, is just developing a curiosity and awareness of what sensations we're feeling. And as we take maybe 3 or 5 more breaths here, you can start to allow the environment around you to come into your experience. So I'll invite you to notice the sounds outside if you didn't already, and bring them into the experience of your practice. And then as we slowly start to come out of this position, you can bring your hands to the ground, start to lengthen your torso, and we'll make our way back in whatever way makes sense for your body tonight into downward facing dog. This is going to be our last down dog of the practice, so if you need to shake it out or take a scorpion dog, if you want to flow through one more vinyasa, like whatever you need before we start to settle into the more restorative portion of practice tonight. Now's a good time to get those wiggles out. And then let's go ahead and set up in a comfortable seat. I'm going to sit on my blocks like we did last week, but if you prefer to sit cross-legged, you can do that. So I just like to stack 2 blocks and bring them kind of between my ankles. And it's just more comfortable to sit like that for longer stretches of time. So I'm noticing that my knees feel like they need a little padding. I don't know if you feel like you need that too, but if you need to make any adjustments to your position, you can do that here. And then let's just settle in for a few moments of stillness and meditation, and then we'll do a little sounding and move into more restorative things on our backs. So if it feels comfortable, you're welcome to close your eyes. If you prefer to keep your eyes open, it might be nice to kind of gaze at this candle flame or something in the room to rest your focus on. And again here, just inviting curiosity into the experience of your breath. So as you take an inhale through your nose, your breath moves down your throat and into your lungs. And then as you exhale, it moves from the lungs back up the throat and out the nose. So if you can start to just kind of follow that trail of breath as it comes in and down, up and out. And doing a brief body scan, noticing where you might be holding tension, checking in with your jaw, your shoulders. And as you start to root down through your sit bones, see if you can bring a lot of length into your spine so you're reaching up tall through the crown of your head. Relaxing your shoulders. And so here the invitation is to experience the height of your body, so feeling how tall you are from where your shins meet the ground all the way to the crown of your head. And then see if you can start to notice how it feels to breathe wide into the sides of your rib cage. So that you're taking up space both up and down and from side to side. And really stepping into the fullness of your body. And then bring your attention to the back of your body. So the back of your skull, your neck, the shoulder blades, all the way along the spine, the sides of the back, hips. And see if you can allow your breath to move backwards into your back body. So there's a little bit of expansion through the back ribs, through the shoulder blades as you breathe in. And as you're somatically experiencing the back of your body right now, so as you're bringing your awareness to the back body, I invite you to take a moment and just acknowledge history. So as we feel into the back body, we can also acknowledge our personal history, our national history, our global history. And we can know that it's there. And then we can fill the front of our body with breath. So as you inhale, feel your chest expand. Notice the air moving down your throat, your belly expands. And as we bring awareness to the front of our body and somatically experiencing the front body, we can reflect on our vision for the future. So what does a just and liberatory future look like for each of us and for us collectively? And then we can hold both the past and the future and drop into the center of your body now. So take your attention to the very center of your body, the core of you, as it runs through the whole center of you. And feel into your present moment and your personal dignity and the dignity of others. And notice how we can hold all of this at once. We can hold our height, our width, the fullness of ourselves. We can acknowledge our history, we can vision into the future, and we can remain centered. And from this embodied state, I'll invite us to do a little bit of sounding similar to what we did last week. So we'll be placing hands on different areas of the body and feeling into the resonance that our voice can create. Since we were able to do this together last week, I don't think we'll need as much instruction this time. So we'll start 2 breaths, hands on the head, 2 breaths, hands on the rib cage, so either the chest or the sides of the ribs, and then 2 breaths at the low belly. So 2, 2, and 2. And we'll be taking an inhale through the nose and exhaling as you sound either buzzing or humming. Okay? So go ahead and exhale all the way. We'll take hands to the skull as you inhale. And then buzz. One more time, inhale. And then we'll shift to the rib cage. Take an inhale. One more here, inhale. And then shifting to the pelvis, maybe one hand on the low belly, one hand on the sacrum. Nice big inhale. Low buzz. Last one. And just rest your hands on your thighs for a moment and let your body experience any echo of that vibration. Okay. When you are ready, you can let your eyes open. We doing okay? All right. Let's move down onto our backs. So similarly to sounding tones the nervous system, the vagus nerve in particular, and different types of shaking or rocking can have a similar effect on the body. So there's an exercise called heel rocking. It actually might be easier if you watch me do it first, and then it's kind of easier to show than it is to explain. So we're going to come down onto our backs. This movement is generated by my heels, and I'm going to let the rest of my body just kind of move along with it. So it's just a shaking of the heels back and forth. You notice how my head is kind of bobbing and my whole spine is kind of jostling up and down. And you can do it kind of slow, or you can pick up the pace and do it quickly, but it's just kind of like a shaking out of the nervous system. So we can try it together. You can come down onto your back and lengthen your legs out. And just take a minute and let your body kind of get loose and jello-y against the ground so that it can really be moved in its entirety through this motion of your feet. And then you're going to just kind of start wiggling your heels back and forth. Yeah, perfect. And then just let your whole body kind of shake along with it. Head is bobbing up and down. You can just let your breath come easy in and out. I'm noticing that I want to do kind of like horse lips right now on the exhale. So if you would take a breath in through the nose and then exhale, I feel just like a nice kind of letting go of everything you've done so far today. And then you can slowly let the rocking slow down until your body comes to stillness. And just notice the echo of that movement. Sometimes it feels like a leftover humming or buzzing through the body. Good, okay. So from here, let's go ahead and roll over onto our right side. So kind of coming into a fetal position. And then reach your arms out in front of you, kind of like long alligator arms. So you've got arms extended, palms together. Yeah, some of you have done this before in my class. We're going to do kind of a slow twisting, rolly motion here. So we're going to take that top hand and shift it as far past the bottom hand as you can. So reach, 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 and you're really just kind of opening up through the upper back. And then from there, we're going to start to trace that hand, your top hand, along the floor above you, behind you, I should say, and just let that tracing motion continue until it opens you up into a big twist. Yep. Nice and slow, perfect. And then from your twisted shape, you can kind of complete the circle and let the hand that's been moving trace across your top thigh. So you can actually feel your leg. So you trace across it and bring the hand back to meet the other. Yeah, so just big, full circles. And I'm going to invite you to just do this as slowly or as quickly as feels good in your body. There's no right way to do this. It's just about feeling kind of the juiciness of the movement. So we'll take several rounds of it. Move at your own pace. And then if at any point along this trajectory you want to pause and take a few breaths, you are more than welcome to do that. You might just rest in that sweet fetal position. It might feel good to rest in that big open twist or with the arm extended up overhead. So feel free to invite stillness into this too. And wherever you land, we'll just take a couple more breaths here before we move into the other side. And there's no rush. As you feel ready, we'll start to move on to the back and come over onto the left side of our bodies. And we'll be doing the same motion on this side. So first finding those long alligator arms and reaching the top arm forward. Feel the space between your shoulder blades, and then you can start to make that nice big sweeping motion as the top arm circles over the body and back around. It might be kind of interesting to think about which part of you is initiating the movements. There's no right answer to that, but maybe you find that it's the hand that's initiating movement and the rest of the movement is sort of a ripple effect through the rest of the body. Or maybe it's the shoulder that's actually initiating the movement. And you can play around with trying different points of initiation and seeing if sensation changes. And then again, if you find yourself wanting to pause in that curled up fetal shape or open and expansive through the twist, or in any other place along this trajectory, you're welcome to take a few breaths in stillness. If this is feeling really good, you're welcome to stay here a bit longer. I'm going to start setting us up for a restorative posture. We're just going to come into sort of a mild heart opener next. If you like a really big heart opener and want to do this with blocks like we did last week, you're welcome to do that. I'm just going to use my blanket and kind of roll it up instead. So I've got kind of a thick roll. And then I'm going to place this underneath my shoulder blades. And the juiciness for me in my body here comes from letting my shoulders kind of drape over the top of the blanket. But you might find that it feels better to have the shoulders a little bit more supported. So you can play around with that as you're coming into the shape. We won't be here for too long, just a few full breaths. So in this shape, the front of our bodies are really accentuated. We're opening, and if we've come back to that sort of metaphor of the front of our body being our way that we vision and step into the future, you can imagine that this might be a way of embodying a sort of open-hearted, expansive view of your future as we move into this collectively. I keep thinking as I look at our bodies in these shapes how expansive this feels, and that it feels open and like there are many paths and many ways to get where we're going. And I'm struck by the quote that none of us is special, but all of us are needed. And as I see this big expansiveness and think about the multitudes of ways that we build just and liberatory futures for our communities, how all of us have to come along for that. So if that resonates for you, you can spend the next few breaths just kind of letting that settle into you, feeling it in your body as you take this open, expansive shape. Our next posture together is going to be our final resting pose for the class tonight. So if you're feeling really comfortable here, if this is working for you and you want to stay here, you're welcome to stay for a bit longer. It probably will feel good for some of us to come down and find a more neutral spine for that resting pose. So if that feels like that speaks to you, you can start to roll over and remove the prop from beneath you. And I will just invite you to take any last movements you need here. It might feel good to bring knees into your chest for a minute and kind of roll into a nice ball. As we've been practicing coming into sensation throughout the body, let's come down to our toes. Bring your attention to your toes. And just notice that they're there and that there's feeling there. The bottoms of your feet. Notice your ankles and your shin bones and your calf muscles. Feel into your knees. And feel into your thighs, the strength of your legs, the fronts of the thighs, backs of the thighs. You might notice as you feel into your legs that you're holding some tension through your hip creases. And maybe just bringing awareness there helps you release any lingering tension. Allow yourself to soften through the backs of the hips, your low back, and your low belly. Relax through the front body, the chest, the shoulders, the arms. Feeling the arms from the shoulder all the way down to the elbow and down to the wrist and the fingers. Relaxing through your throat. If you notice you have tension in the throat, it might feel good to swallow once or twice. And see if you can let the tongue relax down away from the roof of your mouth so that the tongue is just kind of wide and soft. And then the muscles of the face relax across the cheekbones, across the forehead, the eyes, your scalp. And we'll take a couple breaths to really sink into this restful position. So you can exhale and let all the air out. And then inhale through your nose. Exhale as you let the front of your body soften down into the center of your body. And take another inhale. And exhale as you let the back of your body settle down into the floor. You can release all control of your breath and enjoy these last few moments of rest. And start to find a deeper breath. And maybe start to make little movements in your extremities, your hands, your feet. Or maybe rock your head slowly side to side. If it would feel good to stretch your arms up overhead, you can reach tall behind you and feel the full length of your body, fingers to toes. And in your own way, we'll start to make our way back to a comfortable seat. You can move slowly. And as we close out the practice, I'll invite you to just bring your hands anywhere that feels meaningful or authentic to you. You might find prayer hands or let your hands rest against your body in some way. And we'll take a couple of breaths together. So you can exhale all the way. And take an inhale through your nose. And exhale. And do that one more time. Inhaling. And exhaling. Thank you so much for being here with me and practicing this with me. It's so deeply important. So I appreciate you. Thanks for being here. Have a good night.